Jumping back into the action now here on the Chip Shot Football Podcast, taking a break from the playoff action just a little bit here to get to some breaking news from yesterday regarding New England and there being the first head coaching hire of the offseason, right? On New England, on the Patriots, they kept their head coaching search very limited, at least compared to the Jets and the Chicago Bears, who have or plan to interview like 10 plus candidates. The New England Patriots kept it pretty short, I think, to like around 5 to 8 guys probably taking over their head coaching position. But at the end of the day, really to no one's surprise, they end up hiring what I thought, and I'm sure a lot of people felt was the obvious choice in their former player, Mike Vrabel, the former Tennessee Titans head coach, just spent the season over in Cleveland as an assistant coach over there, now returns to be a head coach, and the news became official yesterday, just after a week of speculation after the Patriots fired Jerod Mayo after their last game. There was a lot of speculation that they got rid of Jerod Mayo basically just for the opportunity, to have a chance at bringing in Mike Vrabel as their head coach. And we already gave our thoughts on that and everything like that, right? I just felt like Jerod Mayo, it felt like he was going to get fired regardless, and that the performance and everything like that, the decision to fire him or keep him just went beyond his performances, right? Which it should be based on mainly, but once the news about Mike Vrabel, being a head coaching candidate and interviewing with like the Jets or something like that, once that all started going, it felt like it went beyond just evaluating Jerod Mayo on his performance, which is unfortunate, but I guess it is part of the nature of the head coaching position and the just the cutthroatness of it all, right, in the NFL. So now looking at it, right now looking towards the future with Vrabel being one of the most sought out candidates, I thought it was interesting. I thought it was interesting what two sources close to Vrabel from time together at prior franchises with Mike Vrabel said would be stuff that he would be looking for in his next opportunity as a head coach, and kind of giving like a list of like his, I guess, prerequisites, in other words, of what he was looking for in an organization and what he was looking for in his next head coaching opportunity. And according to these sources, one of them was that he wanted a tight bond with an NFL team owner that he could trust completely. The other thing that he was looking for in an opportunity was a general manager who understands the player he covets mentally and physically. And the last thing he was, looking for was the capacity of both the owner and the general manager to withstand the pain and effect, according to these sources, word for word, to meaningfully shape a team's culture and locker room. And I think, based on those three things that I just listed out, New England, again, fits the bill quite perfectly, except general manager. They don't technically have one. Elliot Wolf is the vice president of player personnel, something along those lines. Kind of like a general manager, but that's not his title, technically speaking. So that's the only thing that's kind of, I guess, not fitting the bill there. But it's basically, everything that Mike Vrabel wanted to see in an organization. He basically just described this opportunity with the Patriots. So again, just adding to the idea that this made the most sense to happen, right? Obviously, once the news of Jerod Mayo being on the hot seat and Mike Vrabel, looking for a new head coaching opportunity, it always felt like this was the best match to eventually happen. But overall, just my thoughts on it. If they were going to fire Jerod Mayo, and this is kind of like my thinking, this would have been my thinking like halfway through the season or after like week 10 or something like that, when things are clearly not going well. I would have thought that they would have given Jerod Mayo another chance, but if there was no looking back, right, if there was no other alternative but to fire him, Mike Vrabel would be the only guy that I would have liked to have seen take this job. And the 6-year experience at head coach, the multiple playoff appearances, and even playing in an AFC title game, it's just going to bring a lot more pedigree. That's something that's, I think, unquestionable about this hire. How, like, Jerod Mayo was great, and I thought that was a great opportunity for him, but he also took the team at a spot where they really didn't have a quarterback, and they were fortunate to get Drake May. After evaluating everybody and selecting Drake May, they got a good player there. But it was unfortunate in the same sense that he never, with this upcoming offseason and things like that, he didn't have the opportunity to attack that chance to have all this salary cap space, to have another top pick, and kind of build on the team that he inherited, right? He really inherited this team with nothing. And now kind of Mike Vrabel takes over this spot with, like I mentioned, the Patriots have a ton of cap space now, 133.5 million according to SpotRack, to kind of improve this roster. They have their franchise quarterback, like I mentioned, which is a big deal. And, they do have some players they could certainly build around, like Keon White, Christian Gonzalez, David Andrews as one of the veteran leaders of this group, which is tremendous to have. So they have some spots and some players certainly that they're able to build around and everything like that. So Mike Vrabel, with his experience, with his pedigree, is going to bring a lot just by bringing him in. But also, this opportunity was seen around the NFL as one of the highly sought after ones because of all the things that you could potentially change about this team heading into the offseason. Definitely going out there and looking for a lot more help at wide receiver. Defensive line help certainly couldn't be a bad thing. Offensive line definitely needs to improve to fit the mold and the idea of what Mike Vrabel wants in an ideal team. I think running back, you can't really go wrong at looking at some options there. Linebacker depth is going to be huge for this team if they want to play through their defense and want to have a very impactful defense to help out Drake May as well. So there are some things there, certainly a lot to build on, certainly. But with this pairing of Mike Vrabel and the New England Patriots overall, like I mentioned before, I thought it was the logical thing to do, and I think Mike Vrabel is certainly a great head coaching candidate, right? If I were to order them, it would probably be Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, and then probably Mike Vrabel, if I'm being honest. So he was one of the ones that was very sought after, but I think this is going to be a great pairing overall going forward with Mike and the Patriots. I think he spoke today about just kind of his opening press conference on kind of laying out some things, what he wanted to do with this team, talking about Drake May and everything like that. And just from the opening press conference, I'm not going to quote really anything from it, right? Because there was a lot of things to pick out from. But I really liked what he said about Drake May and how he's going to basically let him be who he is and just pretty much just guide him along the path of hopefully developing him more and more as the year goes on. And that was something I really liked about that. And just overall, he brings a no-nonsense sort of persona, almost like Bill Belichick, which is something else that people thought was what the Patriots needed. And I would agree with that. But I compared him to Bill Belichick a little bit there. But I think it is Belichick-like, but more with an openness and like a personal feeling to it, right? I don't think it'll be as cold and maybe as dry as Bill was with New England, but I think Mike Vrabel will certainly bring that pedigree and that attitude, considering he played in one of the most successful periods of the Patriots, and he was part of that, dynasty and whatnot. He'll bring some of that, but I think having his own flavor to it and having his own personal touch to it to really connect with his players and be a little bit more open to that side of coaching, I think that is what really will have him be successful in this job if he's able to do that, and if also the Patriots kind of give him the power to make a lot of the decisions, right? I don't expect him to be the general manager and be, the face of the Patriots, sort of like Bill was, but he should have a lot of say in what he wants his team to ultimately be like. A lot of decision making in the type of players, the type of characters, and the type of, just overall players that he wants on his team. A lot of that should be given to him, hopefully. And if everything goes according to plan, just my quick thoughts on what this team could be going forward with some of the very promising players that they already have on their team. If everything goes according to plan, right, like getting a nice wide receiver, a legitimate number one, whether it be through the draft or whether it be through free agency with like T. Higgins out there, obviously, and a bunch of other names, right? Getting a guy like that maybe on your team, building up that offensive line, probably through the draft and also free agency. It's a very exciting time right now, and I think all of that would really, in an ideal world, would develop into something like maybe the Cardinals were something like this year, right? They were leading the division at one point in the year. I think they could strive to be something like that. In a way, kind of like the Atlanta Falcons, right? Another exciting young quarterback sort of team that if they get the necessary pieces around Drake May, can have success on offense. Denver, kind of a little bit, right? I think they had more of an established defense already there, so that one's kind of hard to emulate. But I think like the Cardinals or the Falcons, if they could strive to reach 500 after back-to-back 4-13 seasons, I think that'll be something that to me would be looked at as a success. And I mean, again, unfortunate that Jerod Mayo couldn't get the opportunity to do that, because I thought he could have definitely built on that 4-13 season, but now it's up to Mike Vrabel, to carry that opportunity. I'm sure all Patriots fans are excited about it. This is a great opportunity for Vrabel and to really turn this whole situation around in New England very quickly, because you have a guy that's a leader of men there as your head coach, and now you give him all this stuff to hopefully work with and grow with, the cap space, the draft picks, and everything like that. It can be turned around very quickly, and it could be something reminiscent of, like I said, the Cardinals or the Falcons, or maybe even the Texans in a way, if you want to talk about quick turnaround with the right guys in mind. And it's all exciting right now, but the right decisions, I can't stress that enough, have to be taken, right? And hopefully by Mike Vrabel, which I have the most confidence in over there in that organization. So overall, I thought it was a good hire, obvious one, and now it'll be interesting to see how that affects everything else, right? How quickly somebody else hires their new head coach. But that is all on the New England Patriots. Again, congratulations to them. But we're going to get back to talking about the playoffs here. We're going to go over the Saturday games that happened, obviously, this past weekend, starting off with the Ravens and Steelers game. The Ravens take care of business. They move on to the divisional round by beating the Steelers 28-14. When we return, we're going to talk about the state of the Steelers right now and going forward, and how just the Ravens were able to handle business even without Zay Flowers. So stay tuned for that. We'll be right back with that after this.
Looking